Hey old friends, welcome to the channel. It's your boy Bob here. No, let's not do that. Do you think I'll get more? Do you think I'll get millions of? Do you think I'll get millions of subscribers if I just do the same intro that everyone seems to do? Probably not. I would imagine, because when you're 50, it just sounds ridiculously stupid. Anyway. I've had since I did my last Everquest video, which was only a couple of days ago, wasn't it? I think I had a chat with a couple of people in game, got some feedback on the video, and some messages and stuff. And yeah, I thought I would do. Someone said to me, I had a couple of people asking me sort of what server to play on. A couple of people said they're in the same situation as myself with regards to green, blah blah blah. So I thought I would just do a bit of a waffling video about blue and green, really. I think I've probably run the wrong way here. What have I done wrong? No, it might be okay. Anyway, who cares about that stuff? Yeah, I thought I would have a little blue-green discussion. First of all, what I want to say is blue, green and red are freaking marvellous, basically. That's the be-all and end-all. You can't go wrong. You know, and a lot of it is going to kind of come. We're talking about kind of preference, and I think a lot of it is going to come down to like class you want to play. I would say economy and also legacy items. I think they're probably the two key things, particularly between green and blue and red. I think I'm heading towards Guck. I'm not sure. This is a new Shaman, new project on blue. I'm kind of undecided exactly about what I'm going to do, to be perfectly honest with you, at the moment still. But yeah, we'll kind of talk about it, and maybe you can see where I'm coming from, and depending on what sort of player you are, what may be the best or not. Let's be honest, you've probably got a better idea than I have. You know, what do I know? some solo, anxiety-ridden, specimen that I am. But yeah, I think if we just talk about green and blue, I think there's two key things that I'm finding. I did some research yesterday, and I think there's two things to think about. First of all, I think one of them is probably legacy items, and will you be able to get them? Or what I mean by that is, will you be able to put the time in to get them? Because I believe there are still some legacy items available to get. And I think there will be in Velius as well when that first comes out. And I guess we're talking about items that are going to be removed from the game or changed. So that's probably one of your first. That might be a consideration. And that's probably one of the key differences, I think, between blue and green, is that on green some of these items I think are still available. You know, if I'm wrong, then please correct me in the comments. But I think Velius has some as well. Doesn't Velius have Holgresh Elder Beads, or was that Kunark? As you can see, I'm not qualified for this sort of garbage, so I'm just going to talk rubbish. Probably, yeah, but that's probably one of the first things. You can still get some of those items on blue. Some of the ones that weren't removed and are kind of no drop, if you understand what I mean. But you really would need to dedicate a lot of time to doing that. You know, we're talking probably years to be able to save up to buy some of these things if they're still available. You can buy them on green, actually, still. Like, if you've got 200k on green for a mana stone, then, you know, yeah, all power to you. But I would probably say that, on blue, it's a long shot unless you're willing to put in a lot of time, or you get incredibly lucky. Maybe you do a successful YouTube channel and someone gives you them. I don't know. But anyway, that's a consideration between green and blue. Keep an eye on the comments section, because someone might correct me on that. But I do believe that on green there are still some items available for you to camp if you're that way inclined. And I think with Velius maybe there are some as well. But just do your research, so that's a consideration. The second one, I think, is probably the marketplace. One thing to consider with the market is that when green was first announced way back, they did say that it would be combined with blue at some point, and they would start again. But I definitely remember seeing a comment. I'm not sure if it was from Rogian or Neil Bog, but I'm sure I remember seeing a comment saying that it's possible that green and blue may operate separately. Yeah, and they may do like just another progression server. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. But I'm sure I remember seeing a comment from one of them suggesting that maybe that wouldn't happen. And there's a lot of ramifications for the market, I think, for the economy, I should say, rather than market. If green isn't assimilating into blue, if it is assimilating into blue, obviously there's going to be a lot more legacy items going over to blue. And they will all be. It's weird because I was never convinced that merging green and blue was a good idea. I think because what blue essentially becomes is like I guess ultimately a playground for all of these items. It's. Can I just pull one of these? I have no idea. I could yesterday. It seems alright. Yeah, kind of blue, I guess, becomes a playground for the rich and famous. And I think maybe it kind of creates a situation where people only play the progression servers to get these items, and they know they're going to be kind of moved across to blue. So it's kind of like an amassing of wealth. Which I understand that's partly what the game is about. All MMOs are about that, amassing your power base. But I'd hate to see blue become a dumping ground for the progression servers, and I'm not sure what effect that would have on the market. If there are suddenly a lot more, I guess if there are suddenly a lot more of these items available, then maybe the price would come down. But then what you would maybe find is that when a new progression server is released, those players that transferred on blue kind of start on the new green again. So for a period of a couple of years, like blue becomes a fairly quiet server again. So you kind of got all these items amassed on it, all these legacy items and really expensive items and fungi tunics and whatever it may be. But then they're kind of just sitting there for a period of time because people have kind of I don't think I want to poke my head out there right at this moment. Yeah, so kind of people amass all this stuff, and all this stuff becomes piled up on blue, and maybe it just sits there for if they're going to keep releasing progression servers, maybe this stuff just sits there on blue, because making sure I'm not being attacked by anything else here at the moment. No. Yeah, that would be a bit of a shame, I think, for blue, but that could really have an impact. Maybe positively, maybe negatively. I don't know, actually. I really don't know. You would kind of think that maybe some of these items would eventually be available for cheaper, but if people are doing the cycle of, if players are going to continue doing the cycle of camping these items on the new progression server and then repeating that process, then these items are just going to sit on blue and get very little use. Yeah, I'm not sure, actually, from that point of view, how the economy may... What am I doing? I'm going to cast spells. Just go and sit in a corner, Bob, so I don't get pushed back. Yeah, but from a... I guess from a point, I think floating in the water here is a bad idea. I'm just not going to get a spell off. Because it only takes a little nudge, and yeah, away you go. But anyway, let's get back on topic. So from that point of view, yeah, that's an interesting one. Where's he going? Oh, of course it did. This is Everquest, so that was always going to happen. Can I get him just before he goes behind the corner? Yes, and that's Everquest as well. The fact that your mob runs off, God knows where it's going to go, but then I got a lucky hit in just at the end. Let's pull this guy around here so I'm not floating in the water, and we'll get in a corner. That would be the best thing. There we go. Yeah, so the other side of the economy is just the general economy and the prices of stuff that fluctuates greatly. And I was kind of looking at the Shaman stuff primarily. And the big Shaman spells between level 55 and level 60 still quite expensive on blue. I'm not sure if they've gone up a bit. It's weird. Economies are weird in games. Like on blue, I would have thought that the price of stuff would have come down when you look at it. Just when you have a brief look at it, because you think to yourself, well, if there's less people available to buy this stuff, then surely people need to be charging less for it, so they sell them. But I guess the other thing as well is that they probably, by the same token, they probably become rarer, particularly spells. Because if someone buys a spell, if a spell drops, someone will either scrub it into their spell book or they will sell it. And the person buying it, you're assuming they're buying it because they want it. And so it's going to get ascribed into a spell book. So I would imagine quite often spells don't stick around in the economy for a particularly long time. So if there's less people available, there are less spell drops. So maybe that's what's keeping the price up. Like the price of Bane and Pox and stuff on blue is still quite expensive. It is cheaper than green though. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm thinking about. Just at the cost of, if I continue with my Shaman on green, it's going to be an uphill slog to get any of the stuff. I think the spell's currently 25k, 30k maybe. I think like a JBB was. I think it's kind of evened out a bit. I think it was 25k. That's still a fair bit more than on blue. But I think a couple of JBB sold for 50k. So I don't know if there's someone kind of trying to corner the market and get the maximum amount they can from it. By dominating the market. Yellow, that's a bit of an issue because there's a witch doctor just here. Let's have a look around the other way. That's where I was yesterday. I want to thank. Where are we going? Yeah, I think the spiders do negatively have an impact on your faction. So I think I'll avoid those, and we'll go across the Bridge of Doom and see where that leads us. Let's drag him around here. Yeah, so on green, like for me personally, things are more expensive, and I'm less able to accumulate wealth. So I could go somewhere and just kill mobs that drop fine steel weapons forever, and do it that way, and that's fine. I could get in groups and to try and get drops myself, get in a guild. That's all possible. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do that, and and I'm completely ruling that out. But yeah, I would say that on green, for me personally, the ability to gain some of these Shaman spells at a high level is going to be much harder on green. I think that's a fair comment from the research that I've done. Other things like Torpor as well. I mean, Torpor is more expensive. It's all more expensive generally. There was a period when I first started on green where I thought to myself that maybe the epics, and I'm talking about the Shaman epic particularly, would be easier to get. But I'm not sure. I mean, the Shaman is a really popular class. I bet there's a lot of Shaman on green as there is on blue. Probably not the highest class played, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if it is one of the highest classes from a population point of view. So there's going to be a lot of people wanting epics when they're introduced. You're going to have a lot of people have had time to probably level alts up, so you're going to have a lot of alt shaman who are going to want epics and stuff as well. So actually, I just think that all round for me, green is going to be harder to gear up, etc. Because I've got a bit of a power base on blue, and I've got a bit of cash, where I could, when I reach like Bane or Pox level or whatever it may be, I can kind of afford to buy one of those maybe, or maybe both of them, depending on how the market goes, and depending on how much gold, how much plat I earn between then and now, between now and then I should say. So the economy is quite important, and I think the other thing as well is really just like where do you know someone? I suppose what is it? Do you know people on blue? I was speaking to someone yesterday who had a guild, knew some people on blue, came back, they helped them out, and their progress was made smoother because of that. I guess if you want a more classic experience and you want to be bad about the head, as we all have been over the years on P99 by starting again, yeah, then maybe green. But yeah, I think I do. The things that I'm finding important, I think, are probably economy, as I said, legacy items potentially, if that's something, if that's your bag. Let's see if I can pull. I should be able to solo these dudes pretty easily. Let's park myself in a corner. The neophyte. Let's get rid of the apprentice. I think you get 3 here. I think there's one around the corner. Yeah. Let's get rid of the apprentice as quickly as you can. I think either one or both of these mobs do blind you. So, yeah. We can get rid of the casters first. Yeah, so like for me, I'm sure that there's many other reasons as to why you might want to start on one or the other server. But for me, I think probably if I was looking at it as a new player, I'd be thinking legacy items. Have I got any chance of getting those? If not, maybe forget about it. The economy, depending what class you're playing. I'm playing a Shaman, which is expensive, very expensive. Yeah, so again, that's something that I'm not 100% sure about. I just think that currently I'd have a much harder time on green, kind of decking out a Shaman. Well, much harder time on green decking out a Shaman. Yeah, but if you're playing another class, I mean, the thing is, I've got like an enchanter on green that is the same level as my Shaman. So I could just play an enchanter who is less financially to be doing the stuff that I'd like to do. The enchanter's got less of a financial investment than a Shaman, probably to be able to do similar stuff. Because I imagine to be able, I was watching a ShamWowie. It's a Shaman on blue, and he's been doing some videos. These videos don't get enough of a view count, in my opinion. It is just gameplay, there's no commentary, so maybe that's why that is. But yeah, I've been enjoying. He's a level 60 Shaman with all the stuff. It really is kind of like the place where I'd like to be. And he shows you what is possible on a Shaman, some crazy stuff. I saw him, he was fighting like 3 fire giants last night, and I just love the casualness of how he was, through experience and gameplay prowess, how he was handling it. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But he has obviously got Torpor, the Epic, all that kind of stuff. And I think you kind of need that investment on a Shaman at 60 to be able to do those kind of crazy things. Whereas with an enchanter, there's less of a financial investment. So for me personally, I guess like an enchanter on green is a possibility, because it just means I'll be able to do more with. Let's park myself in a corner here. Yeah, so I'll be able to do more with less of a financial investment. Yeah, and I kind of guess that's it. I don't know. What's the conclusion? I don't know. I've just been waffling for, as some people find it incredibly frustrating that I do. We've just been waffling for, 20 minutes. I think we have come to a conclusion, actually. I think if you're going to play if you want to start off and play a particular class like a Shaman, for God's sake, like a Shaman, or what are the other classes that require quite a high financial investment, probably like a tank, that kind of stuff, then green is invariably going to be a harder place for you to level. For you to gain equipment, because if you're going in it now, particularly like things for epics and like warrior epics and all that kind of stuff, there's going to be a queue of people in front of you in the big guilds who are going to be holding that stuff down for quite a while. It seems like on blue here I've got a fungi tunic, and I'm pretty sure that there's probably maybe one guild that've got those locked down on green at the moment. So getting one of those, you're gonna probably have to wait until all those people in that guild have got that item, and then you're probably going to pay a fair penny for it afterwards. So yeah, I think that's definitely a consideration. But then, of course, if you want that kind of hardcore classic experience where that's just how it is, I mean, I admit I've become a bit soft over the years playing on blue, playing on P99. But I've been here for such a long time, you know, and my goals are going to be different to other people's goals. But yeah, but if you're looking for that like really hardcore experience, then yeah, I mean, maybe green is the thing. We talked about legacy items. I do think legacy items are a point. But I think the thing... Whoa. Don't get too carried away, Bob. But I do think the thing with legacy items that we've got to remember is that if green does then get funneled into blue, it kind of creates almost this like new dynamic around them, doesn't it? You know, if green stays its own entity, then there's not many of these items available. And yeah, and they become, I guess, more of a thing. But if the future green servers are funneled into blue, then it creates a whole different dynamic around them, then a different economy. So that's going to be really interesting to see what they do after Velius has been out for whatever period of time. Yeah, all things to consider. Friends obviously is a key thing, as I mentioned. Yeah, but I mean, for me personally, I kind of know people on green and blue. I don't really have any ties to a guild particularly. I don't have a levelling group on either at the moment, so I kind of got no ties really. It's weird, I don't know if anyone else has this, but even though I've got, and this is probably like this indecision thing, you know, where you see me keep starting new shaman and stuff, but even though I know I've got a stronger power base on blue, and ultimately, you know, green might just be funneled into blue anyway at some point, and it'll all start again. And do I like that new experience enough to keep doing that? What people will do, you know, even though I've got the power base on blue, and I know that potentially, you know, green may just be funneled into blue eventually. There's still this thing about green. I don't know if it's because it's new, Emperor's New Clothes. Is the grass greener? I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm missing, even though I can't get involved in the legacy item camps, and you know, generally when the game's released I'm in bed, so I can't really get involved in that. There is still this thing of like, am I missing something? Oh my god, what am I missing? Yeah, some of that is actually tied into like the channel, where I feel that, am I missing something that the channel would like and benefit from, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's all very interesting the way it works in your head. But the sensible thing for me, I think, taking everything into consideration, is probably to progress on blue. But as I said, that's just me personally. That's just me personally playing as Shaman. The fact that I've been on blue for a bit, built up a power base. Yeah, I probably haven't helped anyone. But yeah, I think the big thing is the fact that the big thing will be is when we discover how they do the funneling green into blue, or if they do it at all. Because if green is going to be its own server, that's a completely different ball game to if it's funneled into blue and starts again. I know that we're all expecting it to be merged with blue, but I'm sure I saw one of the devs suggest that they're considering not doing it. So yeah, we just don't know. So maybe making a decision is difficult, and we should just play what we enjoy and just do that. Maybe that's the answer. Anyway, if you got this far after all of that, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Thanks for being a member. If you join as a member, once a month, you know, me and my wife kind of use that money, obviously in the spirit of it, because I don't know if I'm using that exact money, but we use that money to buy ourselves a nice Costa. Well, I'm not even sure if they're open at the moment now, because we've gone into mega lockdown again in the UK. But anyway, whoever you are, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel, or the video I should say. There was something I thought of. I should write notes down, because I thought at this point at the start of the video, and then I kind of forgot about it. But the other thing as well is that not just how Well, I guess it's linked with how the economy changes when you merge green with blue, but also how your experience changes. Because one of the things I thought about was that essentially on green, your character is on a timer, um, and that timer is where your character will eventually be on blue. So if you come to P99 and you want to play and you look at green and think, well, that's the experience I want, that experience is only going to be available until at the end of Velius, or when Velius is released, and whatever period of time after that, if they decide to merge it. So that's quite an interesting point, because you're working towards your goals on green, and then the server is suddenly merged. Your experience then becomes very different, because blue is a different server from an economy point of view. And what you might find is that when the servers are merged, if you're in a guild or whatever and you're working towards your epic or whatever it may be, your guild might then decide to play on a new green if one is released. So then you're kind of left in a situation where maybe you look for a new guild, do you move across with them again, and the progress that you've made on your character is essentially redundant. So that's another thing as well. Green is kind of like a ticking timer, ticking down to where eventually it's going to be moved to blue, and you may not want that. You may be playing green for that green experience, because it is going to be a different experience to blue, because it's new. We all know stuff, and things like mana stones and whatever are camped 24/7 and all that kind of stuff. So everyone knows stuff, but that is a consideration. If you're working on green and you want to stay on green, to work towards your goals, it's worth considering that if green is merged with blue, then your experience will change, your progression will change. It might become easier to do what you want to do, it might become harder, it depends. Yeah, so that was a point that I was kicking around in my head. If you're someone who is new and you start on green because that's the experience you want, you're kind of on a timer, and if you're coming to it now, your timer is shorter, because Velius is going to be released this year at some point, so you've kind of got probably less than a year, maybe. I'm not sure what they're looking at if they merge with regards to the time period, but even so, Kunark is out, Velius is coming soon, so you're on less of a timer to do what you want. I thought I'd add that at the end of the video, because that was something that I did consider, and I thought it was a fairly prudent point, something to think about if you are new. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.